Long ago, in the great city of Babylon, there stood two great houses, one next to the other, with an adjoining wall. But the families who lived in those two houses were not friends. They were rivals, enemies, bitter enemies, and yet their houses were adjoining. Outside the city, there was a hill, and on the hill stood Nina's tomb, underneath a mulberry tree. The fruit of the mulberry tree were white and bitter. And near the mulberry tree there ran a spring of clear water, just by the forest. Now, in those two families were born to one a boy and to the other a girl. The same age these two grew up, but never spoke, for they were not permitted. But the girl and the boy, they saw each other, and there was great fondness between them. They would always look when they could, but were never allowed to talk. But as they grew, their love grew. Even though they had never spoken, they knew their heart's desires. And now, as a young man and a young woman, they wanted to communicate when there, in that party wall between the two houses, they, as only lovers could, found a small crack. A crack that was not big enough to see through, but they could hear each other's whispers. And every night they would meet by that crack in the wall, and Pyramus, the boy, and Thisbe, the girl, would whisper sweet nothings, their words like soft caresses. They would try to put their fingers through the crack or kiss, but they could not. They cursed the wall that kept them apart. And then they said, "Oh, but beautiful wall, with your crack that lets us talk." Every night they met. So they wanted to meet. And then Pyramus whispered, "Let us meet tonight by Nina's tomb, under the mulberry tree, by the edge of the forest, near the clear running spring. There we will meet, outside the city." That evening it was Thisbe that arrived first. She wore a veil of silk, and she came to that place and sat on the hill and waited for her love, her Pyramus. And long she waited. But then, from the forest, there came a lion. A lioness who had just killed and devoured a bullock, her mouth covered in blood, thirsty to drink. And the lion was coming for the spring to drink the clear water. And Thisbe, in fright, she rose to her feet and ran, but her veil caught on the mulberry tree when she disappeared into the forest. And the lioness came down to the water and drank deeply, her bloody mouth. But now she turned to return to the forest and found a veil hanging in the tree. And the lion, in her anger, she tore and scratched and shredded that veil before returning into the forest. And now, who arrived at Nina's tomb but the boy, Pyramus? "Oh, Thisbe, Thisbe, are you waiting for me?" But what did he find there at Nina's tomb, beneath the mulberry tree? He found a torn veil, bloodied. And then he heard in the distance the roar of the lioness. And he knew what had passed. "Oh, my Thisbe, you have been slaughtered and taken from me. Oh, I arrived too late. What have I done? Oh, let the lioness return and eat me." But no, that would be like a coward. "I will join my Thisbe." And he took that silk, bloodied silk, and he held it to him, and he drew his sword, and he fell upon his sword, and the blood spurted from its wound, and the white fruit of the mulberry tree was spattered with dark red blood. He fell, dying upon the ground. But now Thisbe came from the forest, looking for her Pyramus. "Oh, Pyramus, Pyramus, I have been hiding from the lioness. Why, Pyramus, why do you lie there? Pyramus, it is your Thisbe." And hearing her name, Pyramus looked open-eyed for the last time, and then died. "Oh, my Pyramus, you killed yourself for the love of me." For she saw her torn veil in his arms. "Let me join you. I will not live without you, my Pyramus." And she took the sword from his wound, and she said, "Let my blood join yours, and cover the white fruit of the mulberry tree. May my blood seep into the ground, so that the mulberry tree always bears dark red fruit. And let the fruit not be bitter, but let it be sweet, like the sweetness of our love." And she plunged the sword into her chest and embraced her love in death. And when the two families found the two lovers wrapped in each other's arms and understood that it was because of their hatred that this had come to pass, then they resolved to become neighbours and friends. And since that time, the mulberry tree does not bear bitter white fruit, but fruit which is juicy and dark and red, and so